Hello and welcome. Parliament is back in business. The monsoon session has started as of August 1st and as many as 32 new bills are expected to be introduced in this session. Among them are the controversial Lokpal Bill, the highly political and politicized land acquisition bill and the very critical National Food Security Bill. My guest today is someone who has contributed to all these bills either via public debate and discussion or by actually drafting the text and letter of these bills. Please welcome member of the National Advisory Council and one of the founding members of the Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sanghatan, Aruna Roy. Aruna Roy, it's good to have you on this show. There are three bills that I've mentioned, all of them important. Which one would you say is the most critical? Because you have worked in different ways on all of them.
You know, I really have a problem with having to make a choice between various aspects of governance and development, either where the poor are concerned or even where the country is concerned, because these are all lateral issues. It's like someone asking me, would you rather wear a sari or would you rather eat food or would you rather have shelter? Now for me all these are somehow linked. So I would only say that depending on where you stand today, each one of them could be more important than the rest. And I do think that corruption impacts both the land, the issue of land today in this country, whether it's the acquisition or the building of land banks, the whole land management systems that are coming in. It also impacts food security. But in a sense, if the food security bill is not there, you can do what you like about anti-corruption laws, people will die of starvation. So I think they are all equally important and we have to see them as part of a collage.
We know that there has been tremendous pressure by a certain section of civil society led by Anna Hazare to create a Lokpal Bill and to have it enacted within a certain deadline. We also know that how it has ended up. How optimistic are you that this 9th attempt at a Lokpal Bill will be successful?
Let me begin by saying that the government bill today, which I haven't really seen, because it's just come onto the internet yesterday. So I haven't, but I've heard some things about it. Is less than what either the India Against Corruption has wanted or the National Campaign for People's Right to Information, which is us, has wanted. But if you see where they stood before April 5th, before IAC began its campaign, they've come ahead and they've also adopted some of the measures suggested by the India Against Corruption. If you look at the construct of a Lokpal, there are differences. The India Against Corruption is saying that there should be one institution. We say the same things. We say if the National Campaign for People's Right to Information says the same things. We say everyone should be covered. No one shall be above the rule of law. Everyone should be covered. It's a question of administrative and legal modalities.
And different mechanisms.
And therefore, different mechanisms. They say one institution, we say several institutions. We say lateral institutions, so that there's check and balance. We also say that processes are different. We are saying keep corruption, whether it is high-level corruption or bureaucratic corruption or judicial corruption, separate in three different institutions, and you have grievance redress separated. India has evolved in the last 7 years since we've had rights-based legislations, whether it is the right to information, whether it's the right to work through NREGA, whether it's the right to health, whether now it will be the right to food. We have evolved systems and mechanisms for dealing with grievances, and we are going towards a method of evolving better systems at the grassroots level, because right to information has placed governance in the center of accountability in one way. So therefore, since they have to be transparent, they have to be accountable. So therefore, grievance redress will have to be a very important part of the way we deal with the issues that are raised. So it has to be a bottom-up process. See, the trouble is that you can't have a questionnaire filled on the substance of a law. You should have questionnaires and opinion polls to find out if people want a law. That's a very effective tool. You can have a referendum, you can even have plebiscite. It's important democratic tools. I'm not decrying the tool, but I'm just saying that if you want to debate on what role, for instance, what should the Prime Minister's coverage entail.
Yeah.
Now government
because
says,
I think you had said
government says no Prime Minister.
And you had suggested that include but with conditions.
With caveats. Lokpal says, Jan Lokpal says include. We are saying include with caveats, and our caveats are that the whole Lokpal bench will have to prima facie establish a case, then it will have to go to full bench of the Supreme Court, establish a prima facie case, and then also it's not vicarious responsibility, it's only direct responsibility. See, that office is also important for this country's running.
Right.
So one doesn't protect the person, but one protects the system from becoming dysfunctional.
Right.
So at that level, what? And there are many more arguments that can come in.
I take all this. I'm just saying, but now
Let
all
me
of
come
this
to
has
it.
fallen into on deaf ears,
No,
right?
no, no,
so
no.
it's fait accompli,
I don't think so. You see, I'll tell you one thing. If you go through, that's why I'm saying that we are learning. People are learning about parliamentary processes. We made the Right to Information Act was basically drafted by Justice P.B. Sawant in 1996. Went through many metamorphoses. Basically, it was a structure. Went through state laws. Then the NDA passed a law. That was a bad law. It was called the Freedom of Information Act. Then, because of the National Common Minimum Program, NAC took this law, the first NAC, and did the Right to Information law. This law was less in many ways than what we'd asked for. They took out all private organizations, corporations, NGOs, which was in our draft, and they sent it to the ministry. The ministry turned it round. So when it went to the standing committee in Parliament, 153 amendments were made in the standing committee after all our depositions and testimonies, and then you got the Right to Information Act.
So you're saying it's not fait accompli, and we can still get a good piece of legislation where the Lokpal Bill is concerned.
We should still try, and with the kinds of pressure there is now, we should be able to get a better law, and we should also be able to get concurrent laws. The Judicial Standards Bill is in Parliament, it's not good enough. It should be strengthened, it should be taken out, or they should give an extension to the standing committee. Same way the CVC bill is not good enough. The CVC bill should be examined so that it covers all bureaucracy. The judicial standards will cover high judiciary. Then you will have to have the whistleblowers bill again re-examined, because that's also not, in our collective opinion, a very good law. So there is no such thing as a final thing till the bill is passed. And after all, if you can completely set aside the Freedom of Information Act and put in its place the Right to Information Act, why can't you, when the process is still on, stop it and think, because this is our country. It's got nothing to do with one political party or who's in governance, who's outside, where you stand or I stand, but it's the health of a democracy.
As an NAC member, you understand how the government is functioning, and particularly this government, because the NAC is a creation of the UPA government, both in its first term and now in its second term. Are you positive?
See, I'll just tell you this, that the NAC is blown out of all proportion. Government of India creates so many advisory councils, out of which we are one.
But you all are seen as the most powerful people who dictate the agenda to the government. Isn't that what your critics would like to see you as?
I think it's misinformation. We can only look at social sector programs. We can't look at anything. For instance, if you look at the gamut of government's functioning, the only thing we can look at is social policy.
In fact, it was constituted in 2004 to ensure that the common minimum program was implemented, isn't it?
Correct. So the National Common Minimum Program only looked at what will broadly define as social policy and social legislation. Even then, the MGNREGA that we sent to government in the first UPA was whittled down. RTI was whittled down. Every law we send goes through the government process. And in a sense, though we are unhappy, even the food security bill has been whittled down.
Absolutely.
They have taken away many things from it. But the point is that there is a constitutional mandate for the government to go through a certain process, and it should go through that process. And we have other recourses. We have you, we have the media which will report on us, we have public spaces where we can debate on it, we have also the constitutional remedy through standing committees and through lobbying with political parties. And that's where I think we should now look at representative democracy shifting to participatory democracy, where the pre-legislative discussion on any bill that goes to Parliament will become vital.